Welcome to the show. You know where you are, Expert Talk with me, Tigo. And as always, you know I love bringing very interesting people, experts, people that are truly like just specialists in their field. And today is no different. Today is no different, but you know, there's a little stress there. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. There is a little bit of stress. We're just going to put the word brown out there and deal with it later. But today we have Kevin McLemore on the show, and he's going to talk about, you know, the indispensable values of the game of X's and O's. Are you putting it together? Brown, X's and O's, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, we're not going to talk about it right now, but we are going to come back with Kevin, so sit right there. We'll be right back.
Expert Talk is brought to you in part by PodNation TV, the podcast to broadcast network.
Expert Talk is produced and distributed by Melrose 11 LLC. Lights, cameras, take action with Melrose 11.
Hey, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Tigo, baby girl. I'm going to tell you, I hope your fans are ready. I hope their hearts are open. And I also hope that they may be a little surprised at the end of this, because you may have a change of heart before this is all over with.
It's going to take longer than the show to change my heart when it comes to that brown color, but we'll get into that. We're not going to talk about that right now. You, sir, are an entrepreneur. You're a speaker. You're a podcast host. You've got a few shows, not just one. You've got a few going on. You're a COVID survivor. And then on top of all that, the NFL has played a major role in your life. You're a busy, busy man. So before we get into all of it, how was your Father's Day? Because we're taping this right after Father's Day. Did you have a good time?
My Father's Day was special. My kids called me first thing in the morning in order of their birth. My oldest hit me up at 7 o'clock. My youngest hit me up at 1. A little bit after 11, my oldest son, hit me up. They're a little distance away, so I didn't get a chance to see them. But I did have something special at a restaurant here in the King of Prussia. I'm in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. There was a father that probably would not be here today, collapsed at the restaurant. And luckily for me, I was there to administer CPR. So there's a daughter that's still with her father today. So, God put me in a place and gave me a gift, and I exercised that right. But otherwise, every day above ground for me is a good day. Especially, you mentioned the fact that, I did my battle with COVID, and I will tell everyone it's the real deal. I've been in the fitness business for over 40 years. I made a big mistake on a Tuesday afternoon. I called out COVID because I had not been sick in 7 years. I eat, I'm vegan, and, I'm stronger than most 30-year-olds, and I'm 62 years old. And I basically stood in the middle of a gym and said, COVID ain't got S on me. And guess what? Someone called COVID and said, you hear what Kevin said? And COVID said, I heard him. I'll be visiting Friday afternoon. And when he visited me on Friday afternoon, it's like Mike Tyson says, you always have a plan until you get hit in the face. COVID hit me in the face, kicked me in the legs. It pushed me down the stairs, picked me up, brought me back 21 straight days, put me 2 days in the hospital, brought me close to what I thought that the light, evidently that I made a wrong turn and I'm still here, and the side effects. And I will tell you is that if you don't get the vaccine for yourself, get it for someone that you love, because someone with a weaker immune system may not be around. So that's my public service announcement. And thank you for that introduction. And, when we talk about the X's and O's started back when I was in high school. So this is the origin of this book.
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait, hold on. We got to get there. Give me a minute. I'm going to get there. We're going to talk about the X's and O's. We're going to talk about the brown too, but just a little bit about the brown. But just hold on. Well, first, we got to go back. Let's talk about you're a hero, man. I mean, you can't just skip over that, to be in a restaurant, especially now after COVID. I mean, people gave it a second thought if they saw someone choking before COVID on whether or not they would step in because, what if I get sued? What if they're faking? What if it's da 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 da? But to do that after COVID has been around, people are scared to just kind of just stand next to people and shake hands right now. And you saved that man's life. I definitely want to say you are definitely a hero. Did any of that thought go through your mind, or did you just go on autopilot and said, nope, I got to be there. This is what I can do?
It's funny that you asked that question because I just got off an hour ago before I spoke with you with a guy by the name of David Sanderson.
Mhm.
If you've seen the movie The Miracle on the Hudson, he was the last passenger to exit that plane. And I asked him a similar question of what he was thinking, and it did not resonate until you just answered me the same question. And when I look at the current state of affair that we're in right now, when the S hits the wall, you don't think about what color skin you are, what gender you are, or if you're going to get anything or whatever the case may be. Moments matter.
Yeah.
And if I had hesitated, someone's father would not be here and I would not be having this conversation. Um, so the reality of it is that we're all in this together. We're human beings. I'm not a hero. I've been lucky enough that I've been trained to help people. This was one of the gifts that I have. And, the heroes are people like yourself that are giving people opportunities. Our educators, our service people, those are the heroes. I'm just
I appreciate that.
another person. I'm just another person.
And I'm just another person sitting on this side of the camera, you another person sitting on that side of the camera. And hopefully there are people out there going, man, maybe I have a message. Maybe I can, get out there. Maybe I should share. And they should, especially with all this COVID stuff. If I had to learn anything, it's like, yeah, my mom always said tomorrow's not promised. And COVID proved that tomorrow is definitely not promised. So I definitely want to live for today. And I hope that the people watching understand the power of living for today and stop putting things off to a time that may not ever get here. We may never get to that point. Now, a minute ago, you mentioned that you've been in fitness for 40 years or 30 years
Over
of your
40
life.
years. Over
Over
40
40
years.
years. You look
Yes.
amazing, by the way. I would have
Thank
never
you.
guessed your age, but over 40 years. And you just kind of skipped on past it. But you truly understand what fitness is. It's not just go to the gym to hang out and get picked up on or pick up somebody else. It truly is a part of your life. And it probably saved your life because of the level of fitness you are when you went through COVID, correct?
I think that's part of it. The other thing is when I say fitness, I'm actually working on a book. I started on it when I was 57 years of age, and I said 57 I can. The truth about the business of fitness. And I started that book after I fell off a ladder and broke my neck. We all have to overcome different adversities. And one of the things I realized even with this book is that every aspect of my life, when we talk about discovering our why, our mission statement, and our purpose as has to be redefined at every aspect of our life until we actually discover why we're doing it. When I talk about, and the way that I teach fitness is at a different level. I teach a lifestyle. You don't actually have to be, fit to be on a cover of a magazine, but your respiratory, your cardiovascular system, if they're fit, no matter what shape you're in, you're fit. I've witnessed a Ironman race when there was an individual one year that basically did not make the cutoff on the swim by 0.2 of a second. He had trained all year round and had open heart surgery, came back the following year, and everyone cheered for him. He made it out of the water basically with a second and a half before he was disqualified again. Now, the kicker of this story, his physical physique, he was round. He came out of 2,700 people that was running that race. When he crossed the finish line, he had finished 375 positions ahead of people, and he was the last person out of the water and a year before. So when I start to look at what fitness really was, it wasn't the chiseled body. It wasn't the person that was wearing the thong, posting, saying, do what I do. It was the person that had adjusted their lifestyle to say, let me improve. 90% of the time, eat what my body needs, live my life. And if I happen to have a little bit, I get rid of the conversation of saying I'm going to cheat. It's like, you deserve it. We all work very hard. And if you like grandmother's cake and candies during the holiday, enjoy it, but keep moving. So my mentality when I train people is that I improve their lifestyle. I improve the way that they feel, the way they look at people, and then the way that they react to people. I created a hashtag out of a 12-hour day at my job. There's how many positive interactions that I have with people working in my job at Lifetime Athletics. Ended up 1,000. And I
Wow.
came up with the hashtag is find 1,000 reasons to be kind to someone. If we did that every single day, fitness is a mind state. Fitness is a place of being in your life, and fitness is a place on how you treat other people. So when I talk about the business of fitness, we have to understand the fitness business is a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's predicated based on separating you from your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what you got to look at. And the way that I teach is how you can go ahead and basically put me out of business and take care of yourself. So I'm very
Wow.
effective in what I do. I'm very effective in the cognitive aspect of it, and my heart's in every client that I train.
Now, you didn't just come across fitness. You didn't get up one day and take a certification course and say, I'm a trainer. You have actually had fitness be a part of your personal life for most of your life. I mean, you played professional sports.
Well, I had a tryout for a professional sport. I didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
actually play. They kept me around for a little bit, but they didn't keep me around, if I could say that. But every aspect from, track and field to football, from high school to college, and therefore, it got me to be a personal trainer for Julio Franco. I became an unofficial strength and endurance coach for Major League Baseball, thanks to Julio Franco for five years. So it has always been a positive part of my life. It has also kept me out of prison, kept me out of the graveyard. It's the mindset of taking care of your body and and having that body represent what you are in life. So it's been a mindset. If it had not been for me putting on a football uniform, I don't know if I'll be having this conversation, because I was surrounded with like-minded people that were going in a direction that I didn't know I was going in, and I just followed it's like running water. I was following where the current was taking me, and luckily enough, as I was going along, I learned along the way, and I started putting pieces together.
Wow. So, we've started this conversation talking about you being a dad. We're taping this right after Father's Day. How important was fitness with your children? Did you teach them this when they were young? Because you have a son who's a chef, correct?
I have a son that's a chef, and he is learning to teach to cook with hemp. He's very into that. And when we had the conversation of me understanding that our livestock used to be in 1937 was actually fed hemp, and a lot of the things that we have, especially with COVID being affecting our immune system and inflammation being a big part of it, you have to realize that hemp, not marijuana, not the stuff that's going to get you high, but hemp plant is a 14-foot tree. It actually pulls out inflammation in your body. And when you look at the source of where the animals get their protein, it's not from eating other animals. So when you ask a cow where he gets his protein from, that's where we should be getting our protein from. And now that my son is cooking with that, and he is a chef, we're learning.
Did this man just say, did he literally just say, when you ask a cow where they get their, okay. All right. That was funny. You are a
Now,
funny dude.
no, but think about it. Until you see your livestock, and believe it or not, when you look at the fact that hemp used to be a major part of the feed, until we start making instant cows, instant chicken. I mean, realize if you grow a chicken, it's only going to be about 3.5 pounds. In less than X amount of months, we got a 10-pound chicken there. Most of
Yeah.
that is when you look at our food and how it's processed. When you go to a grocery store and you see that nice big chicken breast, it's filled with seawater. Most
Yeah.
of it, when you cook it, it dries out and it shrinks up and whatever. We put
Mhm.
a lot of things in our body that our body is not set up to process. And that's the reason why we're at risk. And especially when I talk to people that are black and brown, the reason why COVID hit us hard is our lifestyle, for one. But it's just like with everything else. If we do things in moderation, our body is our body is an incredible machine. It wants to fight to be alive. And we constantly put things in our system that threatens the mechanics of where your body is set up. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day long, and some people will get it and other people refuse to change.
Yeah, because they just follow. This is what mom did. This is what grandma did. This is what I do. But the food is completely different than when it was when grandma was doing it.
You're exactly right.
It's entirely different. And we could sit here, and maybe we should one day just
We
have
should.
a nutritional and health and wellness just conversation. Bring in a few people and just have that conversation on both sides.
And-
Because there are people out there that think, hey, my time's more valuable than what I'm eating, so I'd rather go through a drive-through, because
Well,
I got 15 other things to do.
well, believe it or not, if I have to say one thing while we're still on the fitness subject, if everyone stopped aiming for weight loss and just concentrate on increasing muscular strength and lowering the body percent fat, life will be better. That weight loss target means absolutely nothing. You can lose it, but if you lose it quickly and not naturally, it will find its way back and will bring 5 pounds of friends with them. Stop.
I love this guy. Okay. All right, we're gonna come back because we got to talk about the indispensable game of X's and O's. We got to talk about that. We also need to talk about home shopping. What's that all about? And we kind of hinted on your podcast, but we didn't really get into it. So let's go do that. So let's go do that. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about X's and O's and maybe a little bit of the brown. So sit right there. We'll be right back.
Expert Talk is brought to you in part by PodNation TV, the podcast to broadcast network.
Hey, welcome back. You guys know where you are. Expert Talk with me, Tigo. And we're talking with this young man, Kevin, and he just said, stop worrying about weight loss and start worrying about your health overall. I mean, he said it way better than that, but he's telling the truth, I have to admit. Okay, young man, let's talk about home shopping. Home shopping? Really? What did you do for home shopping?
When I decided to first retire from the fitness business and transferring from New York to Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, to become a stay-at-home dad, to be active and present in my children's life, I invented a product called the Perfect Sheet. And because I was a neat freak and was making the beds, and no one else in my house made the bed, we bought this house bigger than life, and realized every morning when my wife went out to work, I had all these beds to make. And so I created a system that basically allowed me to pull the sheet taut. The sides of the sheet fell 12 inches on each side. I got a patent on the way the hospital corners were sewn in, and I tried to pitch it to QVC. Guy by the name of Mark Berg was a part of a company that was an extension of QVC called Product Works. And I did not know that I had to spend a lot of money to get a patent. Didn't know I had to spend a lot of money to get a
Yeah.
sample and whatever. And he says, you've got a nice voice. He said, you ever think about doing TV? Well, I said, well, I've done a little acting. I've been in a couple movies. I was on a soap opera in New York. I've done a couple commercials. I've been on the covers of a couple romance books. I said, I can do a little bit. And he says, would you be interested in basically coming on as a guest? I've got this guy that doesn't like doing overnights. Come on, and they gave me a product that I was selling out the balance of the inventory. So I got lucky. People like me. They bought the product over and over again at QVC, and QVC was fairly new at that time. And there was no one in the building that looked like me. So I started a company called Dark Star Productions, where I started to rep products. I had no idea what I was doing. I would go to the trade shows and I would hang on the corner and listen to conversations. And I'm going, I'm smart enough. And I made a list of
Wow.
100 clients that I wanted, and Timex was my first client. And once Timex came about, I got the first 10 vendors on my list, and I was in business. And I learned every single day, a lot like you. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was smart enough to be a good student. I learned, and within 2 years, I was one of the top 15 independent marketing reps at QVC. I've had some products that have sold over $1 million in 5 or 6 minutes, and I've been to every single trade show, which I still love to do. And I learned that QVC had a unique gift on how to take a vendor's product and put the perfect pitch on there within seconds. And
Wow.
I learned that art.
That's amazing. I was that's amazing. I mean, you told me before, and I sat here with my mouth open. You tell me again, I sit here with my mouth open. I tend to do that, I tend to do that because you're an amazing, amazing dude. How did you go from that to being an author? I mean, you just get up one day and say, I'm going to write a book.
Well, I wrote my first book out of envy. I had a fraternity brother that had been published, and I thought I was a little smarter than him. I had was recovering from knee surgery, and I had a beach house on the shore up this way. And I saw a lot of people out one night in August, and they had this big bonfire, and they were telling stories. I sat on the edge of the campfire, and we talked. I had my crutches, and they were celebrating the anniversary death of Elvis Presley. And I listened to
Wow.
the story. My younger brother happened to be born a day after or day before. I think it's the 9th. He was born, and Elvis' birthday is the 8th, and loved Elvis Presley. And I had promised him that, one day that when he grew up, I would, he would meet Elvis. And I started interviewing fans of Elvis. No one had ever done a book about fans. And these weren't fans, these were fanatic people that their houses was Elvis, their lives was Elvis, tattoos of Elvis. And I interviewed 1,500 people, and I put together a book
What?
called Letters to Elvis. And St. Martin's Press bought the book before they had even seen me. I had a book agent that set everything up. I got a nice advance, and this was the kicker. When I came in to do all the press and interviews, the staff to set everything up, there was a big gasp when I came in the room.
Okay.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have to ask. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when you think an author with letters to Elvis, they weren't expecting me, and the big
Yeah.
argument was putting my picture on the book, and they thought it was going to affect the sales. And I had had the ear of some very prominent people in New York at that time, and they said, "Look, you may only get a chance to be published one time. Your picture needs to be on there." So we had pictures taken, submitted the picture, and they put my picture on a little small part on the back of the book. It didn't show up on the front of the book. And the unique thing was, if you want to know whenever a disaster is going to come, call me to find out when I'm going to release a book, because the UPS strike happened after me doing all the pre-publicity, the PR, and showing up on television, radio shows, and so forth. And my book was nowhere to be found. So 35, 40 days
Oh
later, the
my
book was released
gosh.
on a Saturday morning. And I remember it like yesterday. I woke up, turned on the television, and Lady Diana had passed.
Oh
And
my
no one
gosh.
was interested in my book.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story. But now you have a new project.
And COVID came out
Now
2 days after I released that book.
okay, remind me never to tell you when I'm releasing a book because it sounds
No,
like natural
it,
disaster.
it only happens. It only happens to me.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
futurist.
Okay. So now you have, indispensable games of X's and O's. I have this vision in my brain of you at a chalkboard doing football plays and teaching Pee Wee League the indispensable game of X's and O's. That's what it's all about, right?
Nope, it's far from it.
Okay.
It is far from it. In 1973, I started a journal, and basically to, keep track of my life. And I guess in short, it was my friend, because when I was in the third grade, left for going to school like any other third grader. I was 8 or 9 years old. I can't remember exactly when, but when I came home that night or that afternoon, put the key in the lock, opened the door. My life had changed. My mother had relocated from Dayton, Ohio to Beverly Hills 90121. She also left with the pastor of our church. Not going to put the two together. My father was a beautiful man and I love him to death. So don't get me wrong. And I'm going to ask people, when you read my book, don't feel sorry for me, because it had not been for the book, I wouldn't be sitting here with the great Tigo. Um, but systematically, my father had a better relationship with alcohol, and everyone loved my
Oh,
father.
wow.
And for some reason, we were relocated from 559 Cedarhurst in Dayton, Ohio, to 710 H.O.P.E Avenue, my grandmother's residence, in the home of my father. And from there on, I learned my lessons of life, as far as being a parent, from my grandparents. And although I came up with a religious background, my actions outside of my home did not support my upbringing, and I was making some poor choices. It led to me having an evening confrontation with a young man that had basically robbed a friend of mine on his paper route. And at that time, for those of your listeners who don't remember it, the paper used to get dropped off of your door by some teenager on a bike or carrying papers. That was our side hustle. And we retaliated, found the young man, and we had street justice. And at that time was my hands against his hands and my hand against his body, and I got the upper hand of it. At the end of the summer, we were preparing from going from the eighth grade to high school, and we ended up at Vanessa Birdsong's party. At that time, we had parties when there was, the red light. We're in the mama's
Yeah, red
basement.
light. Yep.
Everyone got together, and all the boys stood in one corner waiting for a slow dance. Hopefully, we were going to be able to ask a girl for a dance, and she wouldn't turn us down. Came down the steps with the individual that I had been in a confrontation with weeks ago, and he had four friends. He jumped in my face, and I jumped back. And Vanessa said, "No, not in my mama's house. You had to take this outside." So knowing what I had, what the our first encounter was, I was prepared to deliver the second blow again to him and his friends. And I happened to be accompanied with one of my good friends, Paul Moore, which was the baddest dude on the planet, the only teenager that I knew that had beat up an adult. And I figured, I said, this was a fair fight, 4 against 2. Unfortunately, we took off our jackets. They pulled out guns. Uh,
Oh.
we exited. We ran over to our local swimming hole, climbed over the 8-foot fence, and I hid in the only place that I had fantasized about every single time I went swimming, the girls' locker room. And I'm there. I go. I'm laying face down, and which I was hoping was pool water and not someone's DNA.
Oh,
And
Lord.
I sat there for an eternity listening to the concrete that danced around my head. There was chips was falling around. I had no idea, but every time I heard a gunfire, something hit the wall. And knowing that I only had one other way out, and they were coming over the way that we had came in, Paul and I both exited that um, pool on the south side of the fence. I learned two things that night. One, I had world-class speed and didn't know it. The other thing, I made a commitment to God. If I got home without any bullet holes, I was going to make some choices. So like my friend David Sanderson's book, Moments Matter, I got very lucky and things mattered and I made some choices. So my book's not about football, even though I talk about my experience. It talks about the lessons that I've learned, that I've applied not only to my personal life, my spiritual life, my corporate life, and how I educate other people. And it's basically a roadmap for young men and young women that are entering high school, of the things that you can avoid going over, because I've already been there. And there's stories in there that give you hope. So I want to make sure that every high school student doesn't graduate in their 12th year with the same degree that they could have gotten with in their ninth grade year. And so that's where X's and
Mm.
O's comes from. So it transforms every aspect of your life, about time value, showing up to work, your relationships, being part of a team, talking about being present every single day, talking about, forgiveness and how to have grace and be grateful. And the other thing that it basically brings you closer to the truth, because my story originally started out with a lie. Because up until I was 35, I told everyone my mother was dead, because I was too ashamed to say, because
Wow.
I was a person of color, that I fit the stereotype of the system that was played against us. And I was in denial. And so it's my coming out truth. And if it had not been for me being hit in the head with a dumbbell at work, March 2nd, 2019, this book would never have existed, because I got hurt at work, lost my memory. And when I was searching on my computer for who I was and trying to learn my way around my own house, When I opened up my computer, instead of having a password, it was like God was guiding my hand. The first document that showed up was Kevin's stuff. The next document, when I clicked on the folder, it's the first document was there. There was many files. It's everything I need to learn about life. I learned playing high school football. I read that manuscript. At that time, it was 93,000 words. I went and asked my wife basically who wrote this, and she
Wow.
says, "Why are you asking me this? You did." And I said, "The story made me laugh. It made me cry. It inspired me. It made me fight to overcome the mental disability that I had encountered with this concussion. And since then, I've been a reading machine.
Wow.
And if it had not been for this book would not even exist. It would have been my ongoing journal, and I transposed it to this book.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, where would they find your book? I mean, they got to get it. So where do they find it?
Amazon.com. Just put in the search box, books by Kevin McLemore. You're going to see two books that's going to pop up. The first one may be my Christmas novel. It's not a children's book, it's a Christmas novel. Sprinkles the true spirit of Christmas. The second book, don't be afraid of the cover, because I hired a great looking model that looks just like me. It's on Amazon and also Audible. So, and the funny thing about this, publishers, okay, when your author says that they want their picture on the cover of the book, do not try to convince them, because they're not already famous, that they can't look it. The contents of this book is wonderful. It's a book that this is how good I feel about the book. You don't like the book, I'll buy it back from you.
Ooh,
Right.
that's what I'm talking about. I mean, you just put it out there. Okay, you and I mean, we've become fast friends. We've been talking off and on now for about over a month
Don't
now,
go
a
there.
couple of months.
Don't go
You know,
there.
but we could go forever, and I
Yep.
gotta have you come back on because we touched on this much of Kevin's life. I mean, literally this much of his life. So, but before I let you go, I've been talking about it all show. I gotta go there, y'all. Y'all know I'm from Chicago. You know I'm a Bears fan, but this man said that he's Cleveland Browns, man. Cleveland
You
Browns.
got to say it with a little bit more commitment. Cleveland Browns. You've worn the
Ooh,
colors. You
I
have worn
have.
the colors. All right.
I am truly a Jaguar, Julian Jaguar, South Side of Chicago, all the way. We are the Jaguars, the mighty mighty Jaguars. I will say that. But it was happenstance that it's close to the same colors as Cleveland Browns. I
Well,
mean,
let me say this so you feel a little better. I don't hate on any other team, as long as it doesn't have a star on it. But and I understand that everyone has their own allegiance to their team, and I'm fine, because at the end of the day, when February comes around, we are all in the same position, or we're all in that better position that we're all dreamed for. So I'm okay with that. And if
what's
I
the
were to say,
position? Crying because the season's over and we got to wait till
no,
August?
I'm talking about you're either a fan of watching the Super Bowl, or you're the fan of your team being in the Super Bowl.
True.
And
There
at
you
the
go.
end of the day, if you don't win the Super Bowl, you're in the same seat that I'm in as a Cleveland Brown. So no matter how you look at it, it's okay to be a fan. It's okay to be loyal. But unless you win the Super Bowl, you're the same team as I am. You may not go two years of being, you know, 32-0, but I'm gonna tell you, outside of any team that's ever won a Super Bowl, name me one team that's got a parade for winning a football game. One team,
A single game for
a
winning
single
a
game.
single
Hey,
game.
and we're proud of it.
That
Add Bud,
I,
Weiser. Are they
I,
just as proud?
I,
Okay.
uh,
You
okay.
can't you
See,
can't say it.
when I got into this, y'all don't know this, but my mentor Lillian McLemore said there's two things you stay away from: church and state. You don't mess with politics. You don't talk about religion during a show. So I'm gonna just chuck this up and say that right now, football, it falls in between there somewhere between church and state, because we could go all day. I'm gonna just give you this one, brother. I'm gonna give it to you. I'm going to invite you to come back to the show soon. That's what I'm going to do because, yeah, okay, one game, one parade for one.
It's like mama's cooking. Okay. No matter how
Mhm.
many other people make it, it still tastes when mama makes it, it's mama's cooking. So enjoy. Let it savor. It's okay. It's okay. You can be a house guest every now and then. You're welcome here. All right. Don't hate. Like I said, as long as you don't have a star on your back, I'm fine. And I have a brother that wears that uniform, and we still allow him to come around because we love him.
I have a close friend. We have a close family friend that loves that star, loves that star. We have this debate all the time, and I'm gonna agree with you there. But yeah, I want to just thank you for being on the show.
And I
I want to
think
thank you for, we went through, hills and valleys and rivers and streams trying to get this interview done, and we're finally here. I want to invite you to come back. Brother, you're an amazing dude, and I know you're just getting started.
you're exactly right. And I want to say one thing for your listeners. Okay. When you get to a place in life, and this is what my grandfather told me, that you can help someone else, it is your duty. Remember this: reach one, teach one. And I'm Kevin. Thank you for having me, Miss Tigo.
Hey, everybody. That was Kevin. I appreciate you watching. I hope you'll be here for the next interview. Yeah, we're gonna just have to leave Kevin over there with the Browns, but we'll see about that later. And as always, I'm Tigo, and I'll talk to you next time.